two things. There's a common misconception that just because something is old and expensive, that means that it's awesome. And that's not true. I have played a lot of really old and really expensive guitars that, in my personal opinion, sounded and played horribly. I have played old guitars and amplifiers that also sounded amazing. And the same goes for the newer stuff. So it really is kind of like, it's on an individual basis. Every instrument is different and unique, just like all of us. So, when you find the right one, that's the right one. It doesn't matter what price tag is on it. It doesn't matter what year it was made. If it feels right, sounds right to you, then that's the right one for you. So anyways, I'm always kind of, most of my heroes, the original electric blues players, like B.B. King and Albert King and all those guys, well, they didn't have pedals at their disposal early on. So it was usually just a guitar and an amplifier. And I was talking to Tab Benoit last night. He was like, "You doing that thing, man?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "They asked me to come do it, but I don't use no pedals." And so there's no reason for him to be here for that. So I have different pedal boards. I have about 3 different setups, and it totally depends on the set list and the travel situation. Those are the 2 real determining factors. So this is the one that I use when I'm flying. It's compact, it's lightweight, you can check it with the airlines, and they don't charge you overweight fees and things like that. It has pretty much everything that I need. Really all that I need is the guitar and the amp, but I have certain pedals on here that I have to have for particular songs. And so, like this Octavia pedal, I use it on one song the whole night, and that's Blue on Black, and that's it. But I can't do that song without that pedal. So just by the sheer fact that I do that song in the show, that pedal has to be on the board. The Univibe I use maybe twice, depending on the set list. Sometimes not at all. It just depends on which songs I put in the set list. The delay pedal, I might turn on maybe twice maximum. I used to never use them at all. There's some guys that use delay pedals all the time. They're always on. For me, I've never been a fan of that, so I only use it as an actual effect. I don't use it as a core part of my sound. So, the delay, the Univibe, the Octavia, and even the wah pedal, I used it once so far in each show. So that's like over half the pedal board that doesn't even have to be there if I took a few songs out of the set list. So really for me, I could get through any show or any jam with a guitar and the amp, and one of these 2 pedals, this King of Tone pedal or this Fawn pedal. So anyways, I'll just kind of start at the beginning of my signal chain and let you guys know what I have and why I have it. So I use things very mildly. So this is with the slow speed on. That's off. That's on. But what I really like is that this thing right here gives it a real kind of organ sound to it, right? So this is the faster speed, and it makes it sound like your guitar is plugged into an organ. So there you go. So that's what I use that for, and that's like on one song I'll use that as my solo sound. And that one sounds pretty good. I mean, if you don't want to lug an organ, a Leslie around with you, just to have that one sound, you can have it in a little box here. So that's convenient. Then I have a delay pedal, like I said, I rarely use it, but, a lot of guys like to use dotted 8th notes. For me, I have a song, this is a tap tempo, so you can set the tempo with your foot. So if you see a guitar player doing this, he's trying to get the tempo of the delay to go to the song, the tempo of the song. So I have a song that we did on the Laid On Down record where I used the delay as part of the rhythm track. So So that's how I like to use it. Some guys use it like all the time, and it's going on underneath their soloing. And I think for me, it kind of like tends to muddy up the sound of the song. So I like to actually use it as an effect. And then the Octavia is what I have on. So that's the blue on black sound. It's an octave. It's like a distortion pedal. It's like a fuzz. It's a real hairy sounding thing. But what's cool about it is that it's an octave above the note that you're playing. So if I'm actually playing, you know, the E here, then it is creating that one for me, and it's got a little bit of fuzz to it. But what really kicks it over the edge is, like, you know, if you throw an overdrive on top of it, it makes it sound a lot better to me. This is like without it, right? I mean, that's an obvious difference in the sound. And it's a real weird pedal, so it's like, you know, Hendrix used it a lot. But, you know, I remember John Mayer came up to me one time and he said, man, he said, you're the guy that got an Octavia on mainstream radio. And he was like blown away by that because it was on Blue on Black and that song was such a big hit, and people were playing, it was like a hit song with an Octavia sound, which he kind of felt personally that was an impossible thing to accomplish. And honestly, the record company wanted me to change the sound of the guitar solo when they went to radio with it, and I refused to do it. And, glad that I did. So the last thing was,
I admire that, and I think it's fantastic. So what happens, like, when you fly and you don't have your own amp, you depend, right, even for me, like, I got pedals that I can fall back on if the worst case scenario, like a crappy amp on a stage where you have 15 minutes change over time. So, because then that amp is not nicely clean, and it's not sometimes, you know, it's not, right. So what is your...
My solution for that is I carry two. I have a quad plugin as well, and I'll keep that in my bag.
Oh.
But man, I'm telling you, you never know. Like,
you never know.
I've flown with guitars and checked them in hard, huge cases. I'm left-handed, and I show up to a festival and I get to land, and my guitar's not there.
Yeah.
So what do? You gotta find a left-handed guitar on the fly. But yeah, your pedals don't show up. What do? I keep an extra one in my bag. Just that's it. But that's it though, you know. And I got a couple. I got those clip-on tuners that we like to use. Those are handy. If you lose your pedal board, you got a clip-on tuner. If you don't want to take your pedal board out with you, you just got a little clip-on tuner. But yeah, pretty meat and potatoes. But yeah, you need something, because yeah, sometimes these amps just sound horrible, and you're expected to make your magic with nothing. Sometimes so you do what you can.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, how about it for these guys? Wow. All right. I'm Anna. I'm so happy to be here. I hate talking pedals and amps. I just like to play. I'm not into gear unless they really put a gun to my head, which Roger really did. So, but yes. So
he was like knocking on your door.
It was a phone call. Anyway, no, I'm joking. I'm happy to be here and share a few information. I mean, I don't have a huge variety of pedals. I have a few pedal boards as well. One that's waiting for me in Europe, and one here, and then I got a small one that I fly with when I need to just get to a place. This particular one is my American Senate. I keep changing. I keep adding stuff. People send me a lot of things to endorse. It's been like that for years, and most of them end up in Belgrade with my dad. He's got a huge pedal board of all my pedals that I don't use, and he's very happy with them. And you know what? He sounds great. They sound really good with Milton. However, I'm always looking for that. I got 2 tube screamers, 2 original ones, and I'm always looking for that real depth and that really greasy sound, and also the way it responds to your attack on the right hand. Basically, the original ones can do that. And lots of new pedals don't have that, in my opinion. I just can't get that. I can't get that excitement when I play live. There's been a lot of pedals that I would use in the studio, and most of the time I won't even use them in the studio that much, because they bring you stuff and they plug in all these pedals you never heard of or never played, and they really sound great in the studio. You might be surprised, and then sometimes tube screamers are just too distorted for what the song needs. So I don't necessarily need to do it. However, I tried the reissue ones, and there's just a huge difference. I can't imagine they even call them tube screamers. I mean, it's like, you can't compare that tone. It's a totally different pedal in my case. So, in my opinion, I have 3 different amps that I use, and variety. I have a 66 blackface super reverb, and that one pairs great with tube screamers. I got a Bassman that as well pairs good, and then I have a Mesa. I played Mesa for many years. I still have my main amp in Europe is a Mark IV Mesa Boogie. That one really pairs good with MXR stuff, download distortion, super badass distortion that I have, and I combine it with tube screamer. Or I think it's pretty subtle. You notice it, but it's not overwhelming. It's certainly not. I think it's old school, in my opinion. If you pair it with a that's something that I use in Tribe often, that combination, a song called Tribe. 2 buttons chorus. Then I got an analog delay, the download sand, and that's a cool one. It's doesn't take too much of your space. It doesn't have a tap on, unfortunately, because that would be a nice addition. I bet they made something like that, probably.
Yeah.
I got a reverb pedal that I use. Yeah, when you do like a basement, or you can add that. Super badass distortion. That's something that I'm using mostly with the Mesa sound. I don't use it on the super, but I usually use the overdrive all the way, and then the other 2 buttons are like 10 o'clock. So to me, these distortions really react to the way how much pressure you have in the right hand. Together with this guitar, of course. Don't try that with another guitar. So this is my 64 Strat, and I'm in love with that guitar. I'm not a collector. I got only a bunch of guitars, not a whole lot. I have a 57 reissue maple neck that I use. I got that from my parents when I turned 18, and it's been with me on every show ever since. Most of the shows, obviously. It's now in Europe, but I got a white version here. Also reissue 57. John Cruz did a little, modification to some of the pickups, and I think there's signature his pickup on it, and there is a boost button that's not usual by the 57 ratios. And also, I'm working with John Cruz, who is a master builder at Fender, on my model, guitar, which is fantastic. And he built, the first replicas, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Muddy Waters. He came up with those relic strats, the beat up versions. That was all his invention. So I'm very, very happy. We are working on it already, so that's going to be great.